Tamir. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
I've been really looking forward to this.
Me too.
Tell me, who is Alyne Tamir?
So my name's Alyne Tamir. I'm a content creator. I've had a couple businesses also in the content world. I grew up between Los Angeles, my mom's American and Mormon, and Israel, my dad's Israeli and Jewish. So I've always been pulled between two worlds. I was raised Mormon, got married at 22 in the Mormon church, in the Mormon temple in Utah, got divorced at 25, decided to start a new life, decided to leave the US and travel the world. And that's when I decided to kind of leave the church and begin a new life, and ultimately kind of came online to share my journey on social media and connect with other women.
It's amazing how that's blown up as well, right?
Yeah.
When you decided to do that, did you expect the outpouring, the kind of, sort of the reaction, if you like, to so many people?
I mean, when I started creating my own social media on my own channels, I was already 27, almost 28 years old, which is at the time a few years ago felt a little old for a social media person. Now it's more common for people. I kind of just had this feeling where I was online and I was watching videos of other people, and I would catch myself pointing my finger and being like, why aren't you making content about this? Why aren't you making content about women's rights, about divorce, about this? And I realized, Alyne, you're an adult woman. You can make the content you want to see. Stop blaming other people for not creating content you want. And that's how I started my social media channels.
That's fascinating. But you had no experience in this, right? So, am I wrong?
I had some experience. So when I was, since I was young, I wanted to work in media because I'm from Los Angeles. And I always saw the media world as men. So even at my high school in LA, there was a film program and I signed up. But I was a girl, so I always ended up doing like food, like the food for the set or casting. I was never like directing or producing, and it was always male producers and directors, even in high school. And just kind of the undertone was that men are the leaders in media and you will never be. And I didn't feel pretty enough to be an actress, so I was like, I guess I'm doing casting. And then in university, I would hang out with all the YouTubers. So my university in Utah had a lot of YouTubers at the time, and I would kind of help them on videos. And when I got married, me and my ex-husband created a social media company when I was 22. So I had experience in social media behind the scenes, but I never had experience on camera. So that was my first time on camera.
I get it, and it's great you've explained that, because that's not visible. That's why I need to have this
Yeah,
conversation
no
with
one
you,
knows
right?
that.
But it's so interesting as well. You pick up on something that's really important to me. The whole like role models or lack of role models. Like you made decisions in your head at
Yeah.
a young age that you couldn't do this, and that's for other people. But then you completely flip the narrative,
Yeah.
killing it now, like thriving. So take me back to, I want to know those sort of early influences and decision making that you went through that, kind of effectively got you trapped at a certain point in your life. And I wanted to sort of go into that in context of your own lived experience.
I would say when I look back at it, it's really I wanted to make my mom happy. So my mom is Mormon, and so she raised me. And as a child, you usually want to make your parent proud,
Who doesn't, right?
right?
Sure.
And I knew the main thing my mom wanted for me was to be Mormon, to be religious, and to get married in the Mormon temple. So the Mormon temple, you might have seen them in the world, they're all over the world, these white big spires. That's like the peak experience. When you're a woman or a man that's Mormon, getting married there is how you go to the highest level of heaven, right? And so I was like, I have to get married in the Mormon temple. I have to go to BYU, which is a Mormon university in Utah. I have to get married in the temple, and I have to have a family. That's like my main goal in the world. But deep down, I didn't want that, and it didn't sit with me. But I was a kid. I was like 18, 19, 20, so I assumed that I'm dumb and I don't know what I want, and I do what will make my mom happy. And so
Press that.
I suppressed everything, and I didn't listen to my intuition because I assumed I was wrong, because I assumed older people know more than me,
I
and I'm
get that.
dumb. You know?
So you ultimately lived the life you could argue that your mum wanted for you, that tradition laid out for you for a huge chunk of your life.
100%. Yeah. Everything I did. I mean, I dressed modestly. I never had tea. I never had coffee. I never had alcohol. I gave 10% of my income to the church. I didn't break any rules. I didn't party. I didn't curse. I went to church every Sunday for 3 hours. I was like doing all the things that we
You
were
were a
supposed to
good
do.
Mormon, basically.
I was a perfect Mormon. I was card carrying. You know, you get a temple recommend to go to the temple. When you follow all the rules, you go through all these interviews to prove that you're following the rules of the church. It's not like some religions where you can be a casual member. There's like not really casual Mormons.
This suppression of the gut instinct, the Alyne that wanted to actually go and live a different life, how did you manage that? Because for so long you did that, and so did you manage it by actually trying to be the best version of a Mormon, because you might as well?
Yeah, I think a lot of times when you're a type A kid, you just want to be good at everything. You want to get good grades, you want to succeed, you want to make your teachers proud, you want to do everything right, and that's what you're told will make you succeed. And so I did everything right. I was a really good student, above perfect scores, really nice person, so good, so nice to everyone. I was constantly actually putting the needs of others before myself, which I didn't realize. And I thought that was actually a good thing. I thought that's what you're supposed to do, is like put everyone else's needs first and be selfless. But when you're doing that too much, it's actually more performative and it's actually hurting you.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said about, you can only really love someone if you love yourself, right? And
Yeah.
there's a big part of you that was ultimately doing something for other people and not giving the sort of love to yourself. So what changed? What were the catalysts that, we now know, that you're out of
To
that, and
leaving the
you're,
church, like how did I leave?
yeah.
So I was married. I got married at 22, and for the whole marriage, we couldn't have sex. And we got married as virgins. So it was kind of a horrible 3 years because, you know, I'm a 22-year-old girl, I'm married to a man who's we're both virgins. I know he wants to have sex and he's so excited, and I know his wife and he's happy, but I had something that I now know is called vaginismus, and it's when your body tightens out of fear. So it can happen to a girl who's had trauma, that can be like physical trauma, or for me, it was just I had so much mental shame around sex being bad, "Don't have sex, don't be sexual," that you're not supposed to be sexual, you get married, and now the next day I'm supposed to be sexual, and I had so many complicated feelings, my body just tightened. I could physically not have sex. Like, we would try, and I would cry, and I would cry, and I would go to doctors, and we couldn't figure it out. So, that was, like, for 3 years. We never had sex. We ultimately got divorced, not even because of that, ironically, and, that's when I decided, like, something's wrong. Like, this is not the life I'm supposed to be leading. I did everything their way. I did every step. I got married. I went to university. I did everything I was supposed to do. I was a good wife. I did everything. And I'm miserable. And now I'm 25 and I'm divorced. Like, this sucks. And I started going more and more to church originally to get closer to God. Because when things go wrong, you usually turn to your religion, right? And at the temple, there was this ceremony, and there's a line in the Mormon temple ceremony. They have since removed it. And the line said, women should listen to their husbands, and their husbands will listen to God. So I kept
So
listening.
hierarchy.
Hierarchy, yeah, like I'm below the husband. And I was like, this isn't the church I was raised in. That can't be real. Like, this can't be real. I was like, I can't live my life in a church that says this. Something deep inside of me, even after a lifetime of conditioning, was like, this is not right for me. So I slowly started to leave the church. I left the United States.
So it was slow.
It was
That's what I'm
slow.
getting. It wasn't
I
like,
didn't go to a club and go
was
to
it
a
easy? I mean, you were,
no.
no,
No.
I was a loaded
No.
question, right? But like, because there's a controlling element there, and also there's your own,
Fear.
like, your physical reaction to sex was through mental, kind of strain, if you like, and so you've got your own demons to fight, let
Yeah.
alone, you know, probably some pretty powerful people in your world trying to
Yeah.
stop you.
Well, and it's your whole community. You're losing your entire identity from birth, your friend group, you're alienating your family. So that's why I left. I didn't leave the city I left in, the state, I left the whole country. I flew to Europe,
Clean break.
clean break, and I was like, I'm not re-entering the US for 1 year because I knew if I'm near any of these people, I will go back. So I said, remove myself. And in that 1 year of staying in Europe, like 1 month, I skipped church one Sunday. Crazy, horrible. I was like, am I gonna get struck by lightning? Am I gonna die? Oh my God. And nothing bad happened. And then, like, 2 months later, I was like, I'm gonna try a latte. I'm gonna try coffee because it's very against our religion. So then I tried a coffee, and I was very hyper because I never had one before. And then I was like, oh my God, is God gonna, like, curse me? Is something bad gonna happen? And I was like waiting. I was like, okay, nothing bad happened. And then, like, 2 months later, I had tequila. I'd never had alcohol with a girlfriend. I was like, oh my God, I'm drinking tequila. This is really bad. Am I gonna go to
Small
hell?
steps.
Yeah, so it wasn't like someone who just was like, "Yeah, F it, I'm gonna go, to some crazy club in Germany and go off the deep end." No, it was very slow and methodological? Methodological?
I'm not even gonna try and say it, but
Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Methodical, there we go.
Yes, yes. Was there anyone around you, like you mentioned the friend you had the tequila with, right? That clean break, that's your community. You was very insular as well, right? So is this Alyne on her own, just like I'm out, and not got anyone to, or did you have a sort of a barometer, a kind of
I didn't
um,
tell any of my
antenna for where?
Mormon No, I didn't tell any of my Mormon friends what was happening. My best friend at the time when I was married in the church came to visit me recently in London. This is 10 years after my divorce. She had no idea I'd never had sex when I was married. I hung out with this girl 5 hours a day. We just did not talk about this stuff. I didn't even say the word sex out loud when I was younger. It was so shameful. Because I wrote this book, I spoke to my mom for the first time about her sex life 2 days ago because she's now reading the book and it's opening her up because she's in her 70s. She's from a generation where you don't say the word sex, you don't she told me, she's like, "I've never even talked to anyone, even her own sisters, about her sex life with my dad." She's like, "We just don't talk about it." You
This is
know?
fascinating because in my world of friendship, family,
Yeah.
um, business relationships, we share.
Yeah.
I will often share first, but it's that whole building empathy. It's
Yeah.
relationship building. So for so much of your life, and clearly for your mum and so many people in that environment, they are locked up. Have you had an outpouring? Have you had almost like, have you empowered some of the people in the community to actually feel there's a way out? And like you said, the world didn't end when you had a tequila and a coffee, which I can smile at, but that was your life.
It was so scary because it was also my whole personality was "Oh, I'm the girl, she's never had alcohol, she's never" like, that was like, what made me unique and special and, like, desirable and cool. And I was like, "Once I have this stuff, I'm just like everyone else, and I can never go back." You can never go back to never having had it. And when I made a video sharing about how I had not been able to have sex when I got married, my aunt in Israel, I guess it got translated, when I went to visit Israel, she came up to me, my little cute old aunt who has 4 kids, and she's like, "Alyne, Alyne, I saw your video, and I wanted to tell you, like, that happened to me also when I got married to your uncle." Like, 40 years ago, she had never told anyone. She's like, "I've never told anyone." And so I think making these videos, like, talking about these topics that are uncomfortable and scary for me also, has, like, helped even I've seen my own mother, like, my own aunt, like, feel more open and safe, like, sharing things, like, secrets they've kept their whole lives because they had so much fear and shame around them.
There's so much there. There's role models, lack of,
Yeah.
that they knew. I'm sure you embraced that with both arms, right? You then know you're helping people, but also you will have grown so much from the girl that was like, not wanting to conform, but did it and did it so well, but was not living life. Had you, yeah, that stimulation, if you like, and growth you've had from doing that, is that what's now inspired you to write the book, be a trailblazer in
Yeah.
context of content creator?
I think the reason I wrote the book is because I was sharing so much online, but there were some stories that were so sensitive and would open me up to so much criticism. 'Cause I did things wrong, I made mistakes, and I knew if I made them in a short form video on social media, people are, like, horrible online, and if you do they're horrible even if you're perfect, and if you do anything wrong, wow, they will come for you, like, and not in a small way. So I wanted to talk about, like, in the book, I talk about how when after 1 year of being married, I cheated on my husband. I didn't have sex with someone else, but it still counts as cheating, right? Even talking sometimes is cheating. So I cheated on my husband after 1 year. I told him right away. It was horrible for him, I'm sure, like, probably the worst thing that's ever happened to him. It was horrible for both of us, and why did I do that, right? As a perfect girl who wouldn't even drink a coffee, how did I go from not even breaking one tiny rule to essentially cheating on my husband, right? So I wanted to explore themes like that in the book. There's other things that have happened, there was a time where I was abused by someone and, like, the relationship with my mother. These are topics that are maybe need a little more explanation than a 2-minute video on social media can give. So that's why I wanted to write the book because my whole childhood, I read books, and my whole bedroom is, like, walls of books, and I was a very, like, solitary child, and reading books when people were honest about these hard experiences was, like, the thing that kept me going, and that was how I learned about humans. And so after a whole life of like taking from books and them giving me everything, I wanted to like create a book that could maybe give that to like another person.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to inspiring, and through lived experience. I mean, you were clearly incredibly brave. I don't know if you recognize that now, looking back. You did it because you knew you had to. You had to save yourself, right?
Yeah.
But that bravery, kind of growth you've gone on, now gives other people hope. And my mind goes to like a young boy or girl growing up in a Mormon community, or a cult, if you like, that
Yeah.
is trapped. Have you had an outpouring from people that have made contact with you, probably through social media, saying, "I need help," or how do I escape my situation?
Yeah, I've had a lot of people write to me about their experiences. Usually, no one needs physical help. They need the mental fortitude to do it, right? Because really, there's usually not a chain on your arm, right? It's like the old saying about the elephant. You just tie it up when it's young and it thinks it can't run away because it's tied. Then when it's older, it's not tied anymore and it stays. So I think honestly, for a lot of us, even for you or me, if we're just living our peak, real, authentic life, we don't even need to help physically other people. Them seeing us do it gives them permission to do it for themselves. And really, that's what the messages have been is like, hey, I'm feeling the same way. I'm so scared. I'm so scared to leave. I'm so scared to do this. They need to see that there's something good on the other side because it is hard. I'm not going to lie.
No,
All of it's hard.
leading by example, right? You mentioned fear, and that's in my head. I'm trying to imagine, why would you stay, right? So you wanted, and you articulated it beautifully. You wanted to make your mother proud and do what your mother wanted. That's a really good reason to do something. A reason to stay is often fear. What did you need to be afraid of? Is there a hierarchy that clearly would have been more than frustrated, upset that you were leaving and then going to go public as you've done? Have you had any threats, or have you had any challenges you've actually really needed to get away from of merit?
So the church itself will usually not threaten you because they know if they say
So if
something,
you
people
break away, because
will.
that's quite important to know, right?
Yeah.
Because if there's people living in fear, if it's fear of upsetting your parents, and that's a lot, right? If they're
Yeah.
upsetting your community, but I respect that.
They won't do anything physical to me. Nobody will hurt me. Nobody will do anything physical. The worst they're going to do is in some communities, they will not speak to you anymore. They'll cut you out, right? Or, if you have a family that financially supports you, they might not financially support you. I made sure I was financially independent from a young age, so I don't depend on anyone, so I can make decisions for myself and not be like, "Oh, I have to stay religious because my dad's paying my bills or my mom's paying my bills," right? They won't do anything to you. I think the biggest fear is usually the unknown because you're like, "What does my life? Who are
That's
my
our own
friends?"
barriers, though, right? That's our
Yeah,
own blinkers.
yeah, like, where do I live? Who are my friends? How will I live in normal life? I was 27, I never had sex. How am I gonna date normal people? Normal I thought of you all as normal people. I was like, "Oh my god, the scary men in the normal world, they're gonna attack me, on the dates." So, like, just how to you feel like, an alien just like, "Boop, go into the world now and function, function amongst the mortals."
But you are thriving now. So going back to like the beautiful way you described the coffee to the tequila,
Yeah.
and without going into your sex life, just actually understanding that. And I'm looking at this as if someone's watching or listening. They go,
Sure.
I've been there, or I am there now,
Yeah, and I
right?
think it's important,
It
especially if
is.
they've had vaginismus or something.
So what's been the unraveling of that, if you like? And I guess I mean, like, is that you learning to love yourself, learning to drop all the shackles and the things you had sort of stopping yourself, to then allow yourself to be your true self.
First of all, I wanna say, like, it wasn't an overnight thing because I think some people, if they struggle with sexuality and shame, even people who have had sex will struggle with it, especially women. There's a lot of pressures around women and, like, chastity culture. What helped me, honestly, for myself is the person that I decided to have sex with for the first time, I didn't tell him anything about my past. I didn't tell him I was Mormon, I didn't tell him I was divorced, I didn't tell him I was a virgin. I just acted like I was a normal person because I wanted to be seen as normal. I didn't want there to be like, "Oh my god, I'm taking the virginity of a Mormon girl," like all this pressure and these like weird things around it. I wanted him to think I'm just some American girl who's sleeping her way around the world, and this is completely normal for me. And we also had feelings for each other. So that's what happened. I was traveling in Sri Lanka. I flew there to meet one of my best friends, and I booked the wrong date because I'm unorganized. So I got there 10 days early by myself on this island. And I met some, sweet, handsome German man who followed me around the island. And ultimately, I was able to have sex with him. And I didn't, yes, it hurt the first time and second time. Natural. It did hurt at first. I just hid my face and like cried a little bit so he wouldn't know because I wanted to be normal. And by the third or fourth time, I had no pain. Like it was gone. I didn't need to do physical therapy. I didn't need to use dilators, all these things the doctors were telling me that sounded scary. It was all in my head,
Self-cure.
all in my
So
head.
much of what you've done is self-care.
Yeah,
It's inspirational.
yeah.
You mentioned you were always financially independent from a young age, which is the entrepreneur in you, which is actually we've met through that entrepreneur with Aiden, right? And that sort of founders connecting. So take me on that journey. You have come through so much, and I said to you off camera, I said now, so much respect for you. Couldn't wait for this conversation, and you kind of epitomize resilience and the fact that you can feel you're so present. There's a whole kind of what you've come through and what you must have suppressed to now I've got the true Alyne. What's the journey for an entrepreneur now? What are you trying to achieve? What is the kind of North Star, if you like?
I think me becoming an entrepreneur was the biggest surprise to me of anyone because, like I told you with the media industry, also I remember being in university in the business school and looking at all the boys in their suits and being like, business is for boys, business is for boys, houses are for girls, stay at home for girls. So I really never thought I was an entrepreneur. When you look back, it's very obvious. I was taking my mom's roses and boiling them and selling perfume in my neighborhood. I was making business cards for all the neighbor kids to pet sit. I was selling things at school. It's obvious now, but at the time I was like, no, I don't do business. I don't understand business. What is business? And now it's just so natural. Like everything I do, I'm like, oh, I can sell this. We can make this. It's fun. It's like a game. And so I think it's so amazing that now more women are in business. And for me, business is not about it's about freedom. It's not about money. It's not about legacy. I really don't care about legacy. I don't care at all. I care about having freedom and not depending on someone else who can control me. So I think that's why it's so amazing that women can have financial freedom now. Like that famous saying, women couldn't have bank accounts like in the US 50 years ago. Like so it's great. Like I love that without that, you really can't be completely yourself if you're not financially independent.
No, I get that, and I think in the UK, less than
Yeah.
2% of VC venture capital funding goes to female founders.
Yeah.
And that's a real passion of mine. I've got two daughters, 13 and 15, that I am hopefully inspiring to be, inspirational in their own way, follow their dreams and an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, why is that? And I think this is where, when I said to you why I wanted to film with you, it's role models. It's showing other women that actually it's not all about men in suits. I don't wear this stuff. No, I feel really
So
caught
no,
out wearing a shirt and a
I love
jacket.
men in suits too.
But I get it. It's not something I'd have paid much attention to growing up. And at 47,
Yeah.
yeah, I've grown through a period of time where it's been sort of male dominated, if you like. But I think this is where you're so refreshing and actually quite happily putting it out there and got such traction back to the content creation because you are championing female entrepreneurship. And I'm going to say this to you as well. When I was in a position where I was actually wanting to find someone to film with in a period of time where Aiden brought you up, he could not have been more excited, more passionate about. You've got to, and there's lots of people he could have mentioned, right?
It was a lot.
But in terms of no legacy, in terms of no North Star, that often it's talked about the journey, not the destination, right? Which is, I think we can relate to. I'm enjoying this conversation now. I'm enjoying learning from you and so on. But is there something you'd like to achieve? Is there something that maybe based on what you've experienced, what you've been through, or having unraveled all sorts of things you now want to try and achieve? Is there one thing you would really like to actually change?
Honestly, the main thing I want to change is my internal world because I spent a lot of my career working on the external world. A lot. So when I became a content creator and an influencer, my videos were all about the world. It was about FGM, female genital mutilation. It was about sexism on television. It was about people without passports in other countries who can't travel. It was all external, human rights, what's wrong with the world, all these videos with 20, 30, 40, 50 million views about human issues. And now I realize that is very important, but it's also important that we all work on our internal world. And I know it sounds unrelated to business, but I think when my internal world is in order, I'm going to be able to share who I am and what I love and what I believe in the best way and have a big business. Think of Oprah. Oprah works a lot on her internal world, right? She works on her mental health. She's a grounded person. You don't see Oprah and think, oh my God, she's all over the place. She is grounded, right? And from a place of being grounded, like a tree, you put down your roots, then you can grow. So I'm still relatively young. I'm 35, right? Right now, I had a crazy life. I need to ground. I need to ground. And then once my roots are strong, I can be like Oprah, I can grow out, right? And then, of course, I care about helping women and I care about helping men. And I want everyone to reach the peak version of themselves, whether that means you're going to be an artist and a creative and you're in business right now, but secretly you want to be an artist. Whatever your passion is, I want each person to be able to have the freedom to find it. And I think the world will just be better for everyone. And that will probably become a business. I run retreats. I'm building a retreat center. I I love to help people find who they are and do the thing they're afraid of doing.
Must be so fulfilling.
It's
Like, so it must
amazing.
have people come to you completely broken or confused, or their identity is locked up, which is something, all these
Yeah.
things you can identify with and empathize with, to then spend the time on them where, not necessarily at the end of the retreat, but they're well on their way to like having a revealing, kind of removing imposter syndrome. Because you said not specifically business, but imposter syndrome, not backing yourself, not believing yourself, which goes back to a lot of women in business as well. Like, actually go for it.
And if you want me to put it in simpler terms, I think what I want to create is safe spaces. I think when people have a safe space, men or women, anyone, they can do amazing things. And I think there's not a lot of safe spaces in the world. Everyone's faking. They're pretending to be something they're not. They're defensive. They're trying to be something for their mom, their dad, their husband, their wife, their kids. So when there's a safe space and you can be you, that's what I want to create. Whether it's through building my retreat centers, whether it's through running events, whether it's online, whether it's just one on one. Like, that's what I want to do.
I love that.
Yeah.
With your perspective, and with so many people you undoubtedly are helping all the time, at 35 years old, and there's so much you've gone through, and so much experience you've got from helping other people, what's the one piece of advice that you would give to someone that is listening to this, watching this now, but thinking, I can't, I'm not brave enough to talk to someone about this. I'm not brave enough to go on the retreat, and they've read the books, they're listening to podcasts, but they're just, the voices in their head are crushing them. What advice would you give them?
Remove the noise, put down the phone, put down the computer, go into a park. Imagine water is like running through your body and just rush out all of these thoughts. Let it come back to static. I'm a very anxious person. Imagine the water's coming. Remove all of the external. Remove all of the external. What is that tiny voice inside of you saying? You're gonna die. You're gonna die. Maybe tomorrow, maybe next week. You're literally going to die. And you are living someone else's life in some way. Do you want to die not doing the thing that you want to do? Fine, die. Die that way. That's what you want to do. There's nothing wrong with that. Think about 1 year from now. 1 year from now, you're going to be alive. In 1 year, what do you wish you would have done? It's going to be scary. Do you think I wanted to write this book and let my mom read this book? No. I have breakdowns, I have freakouts, I scream, I cry, I call my friends, I talk to ChatGPT. I go through the most insane roller coasters you can imagine. I'm in my room at 3 a.m. like, I'm gonna start a war. All the men are so mean to women. I go through and I look like an insane person sometimes. But then when you get to the other side, it feels so amazing.
And that's layering, right? Building
Yeah.
habits. So so from the walk in the park,
Yeah.
it's a step, and maybe give yourself credit for that, and
Yeah.
then start building and building. Because you sitting here now, without any arrogance, I'm going to use the word contentment,
Yeah.
and you use the analogy, the roots. You've got roots in, and so you can now flourish from that point. And it's being able to plant some of those roots right and get a bit of a hold rather than blowing in the wind.
Yeah.
That's what I'm picking up from
And
you.
sometimes I just want to take my friends, I want to shake them. I want to be like, listen, someone has to do it. Why not you? I have a friend who came to visit me, and like 5 years ago, I said, start uploading your singing videos. Just upload them. Who cares if they're good or if any, just upload. It's been 5 years. If she uploaded every day, she would have uploaded 1,000, 2,000 videos. And she comes to my house and she's like, I want to be a singer. And I'm like, Lark, I'm going to shake you. Upload your dang videos. It's been 5 years. Like, it's just someone is going to do it. Someone is gonna go through the fear, why not you?
This is the thing, but the fear of judgment, the fear of failure, and social media's got a lot to answer, right? I mean,
Yeah,
you didn't have the option to share your singing videos however
yeah,
many years ago before socials, right? Now we've got it, but and you know, she could go viral tomorrow, and then she'll never look back. But she's terrified of what other people think. And you know, the crushing, sad thing for me is I know that really close to home through the way my daughters talk to me in their friendship groups, where you know I'm not putting myself anywhere where I can be judged, criticized, bullied. What's your advice there? I mean, you know, you're thriving.
woo.
You've got past that, but you mentioned earlier in this conversation
No,
that people can
it's
be horrible
waves, it's
online.
waves. Even I'm not past it. I upload I'm uploading crazy stuff about my life that's very honest that most people wouldn't say. I get horrible, mean, long, detailed comments. I had a very public online relationship for 7 years. People saw every detail of my life for the last 7 years. And they know and they will write long, detailed I will have breakdowns, I will cry. The thing is, it's that famous saying, right? Feel the fear and do it anyway, right? I'm not saying I don't feel fear. I'm not saying I don't have breakdowns and cry and scream all the time. But then I just keep going. I upload. Okay, I'm uploading. Have a friend. Have a friend that you can talk to, that you can talk about these feelings. You need someone who will support you through everything. And if it's not another person, it needs to be you. You need to support yourself through everything. You need to create structures. You need to say, listen, I'm uploading no matter what 3 times a week, not 7 times, 3 times. If I have a bad day, I take it off. I say, F the internet, I hate all of you. And then the next day I upload. And mean comments, block them. Block them. I think a lot of people don't block them. They think I need to respond. I need to this. Block,
You're
block,
you're
block.
entertaining at that point, right?
Goodbye to everyone. This is your house. Your social media channel is your house. And if someone comes into your house and is rude to you, they get kicked out. Your page is your house. Goodbye to anybody rude. Think of it as a physical house. You would not allow someone to enter your home and disrespect it.
It's great
It's the
advice.
same online.
It's back to those roots as well. I'm planted here. This is how I'm growing, and
Yeah.
a weed, a parasite, you swat it off, right? I love that.
Block, delete, report.
There is
Yeah.
so much more I could talk with you about, but I'm conscious of time. But I want to ask you something that from the girl that uh, grew up wanting to make her mum proud
Yeah.
and did that to then break away to be flourishing as a woman and have this huge community that you know, love what you're putting out, I love what you stand for. You've mentioned your aunt, you've mentioned your mum reading your book and so on. What's that relationship now?
Yeah. It's so crazy. It was horrible going through this process. My mom was so afraid of the book coming out. She was like, she's a very anxious person. She's a lovely person, but extremely in her head and anxious and religious, like to the point where religious OCD, I would say. And she and I are now connecting more than ever because we're getting over that hump. And I had to put down boundaries, which is so crazy to put a boundary to your mom. But I had to be like, Mom, you don't get to comment on my videos, passive aggressive things. I'm going to delete it if you're passive aggressive. Because she would post something passive. Like if I had, this is inappropriate in Mormonism. So if I'm wearing a tank top, she'd be like, I love your outfit except the tank top. And I was like, ugh. And everyone knows it's my mom online. So I look stupid. Like my own mom is commenting like mean stuff on my videos. She doesn't see it as mean though. She's just like wired this way. So I've been working with her and I've been talking her through stuff, but also setting my boundaries. And we have a better relationship than ever. And I feel like I'm seeing who she is for the first time. And she's for the first time like learning to accept me for who I am and love me for who I am. And it's like so beautiful that she wants to do that. And it was scary and it could have gone badly. She could have hated me. We could have ended our relationship, but she did her own work also. And now we're getting like closer than ever.
I
So
love that. And I so hoped you'd say that. I felt
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And do you know what? You've got such an awesome energy and vibe off you, but you're authentic. You've gone from someone that couldn't be. You
Yeah.
genuinely, you were therefore the best version of yourself. And maybe it's an expression I use quite a lot actually, but like that suppression, that kind of compressed, and then you come flying out.
Yeah.
And you could have, like a cork out of a bottle,
Yeah.
you could have been pretty dangerous. You could have been reckless. You could be dead now, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
But actually, you've just built your own layers to ground, and that authenticity, I guess, is probably pretty hard to question. If anything, there's probably an element of jealousy from someone a lot older than you who's lived a life that is what she felt she needed to do, and tradition told her. But actually, there's a little bit of pride that my girl's gone and done what's right for her.
And I want her to have that. I want like, some people might say she's too old, she's set in her ways. I have hope that she's not. I have hope that even in her 70s, she's gonna get that glimpse. And I want her to have the opportunity to live like her life, even if it's just for a few years.
She's
Like,
probably living some of it through you right now, though, as
yeah,
well, right? And
I hope.
that possibly is enough for her. But it's also back to the earlier conversation. It's an inspiration to girls that really can make a change now, and girls like you've like, said it so well. The world didn't end after all these different things, and
Yeah.
actually, how I'll finish on this question. Um, the relevance of being a Mormon. The I was probably quite controversial to say it, but I got brought up around Christianity that then became quite oppressive, and from what I felt was quite natural and was sort of happy with it, to then like really questioning and not getting answers that made sense to me, to actually
Yeah.
back away from it.
Mm.
How relevant is has your upbringing and the way people are living like that now in today's world?
Oof. I mean, I think it's very relevant. I think a lot of people if we're looking at the earth, a lot of people are in restrictive religions or situations, right? And I would say most people on earth are in restrictive situations, even if they don't realize it. And I think a lot of us are reprogramming. And I think it's really beautiful. And I think the next generation is doing an amazing job of reprogramming. And I think one thing I'd love to say to especially girls is like, you might make mistakes. You might make big mistakes along the way. And don't beat yourself up over it. You're going to make mistakes. That's the whole point. That's how you get to the outcome you want, is by trying. And by not doing anything wrong and not making mistakes, that is still a mistake. So choose your mistake. One mistake will leave you where you are, and one mistake will get you to where you want to be.
I love that. That goes back to the very first chat we had before we started filming about being naturally curious.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was all about with you today. And if you stifle curiosity, you actually, you can't innovate. This goes back to the entrepreneurial conversation, right?
Yeah.
And you can only succeed and flourish if you're going to fail, and you've got to try to do that.
Yeah.
There's so much in this conversation I've enjoyed. I don't want it to end, but we've got to stop here. But Alyne, thank you.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.